Okay, what I want to do today is modify this app that we created with a little bit of help from, I forgot his name, Jack. Is that what his name was? Yeah, from Jack to add records to our table view. Now what I want to be able to do is to edit records into table view. And not only that, but merge these two forms because they're identical. So I was successful at doing that. So let me share that with you, the merging of the forms into one, and then we'll see how you can help me with some of the other things. What I would like to do is revert this app back to what it was before we did the add part. I don't know how many of you have done any work on your Unit 5 apps to add stuff to them already. Okay, Reen hasn't done it, so that's a pretty good sign. So most of you still have a navigation controller, a table view, and a detail view, right? That is connected together as a push. So what I want to do is revert back to that and show you how to modify it so that we can include the add, include all the other stuff. That much I did get going. I'm going to delete just about everything on here, except I am going to leave the add family member view controller because it's got some code in it that I want to refer back to just in case. Probably have to steal it. But I'm going to delete all the segues so they don't get in my way. So I'm going to select that first segue and hit delete, and this segue, and this segue, and this segue as well. Because that segue won't work for us because it is not a navigation, doesn't have the ability to do navigation. Remember, it's a push segue, which means it pushes the other screen and it automatically provided us a way to come back. But if we want to add our own buttons, like this plus button to go that way, we can't use the push segue because we need two segues and it will not let me add a different, well, I don't know if it would or not, but I still want even the table view to push. I want everything to push. So I think I'm just going to delete it. And what I discovered is in order to use this plus sign to go to there, I need a navigation view controller. And in order for this one to come back, I need a navigation view controller. So what I'm going to, pardon me?
Two separate ones?
No, one. So I could reuse this one because it's there, but I'm going to delete that one. And now I have the basics that I want to hang on to. I'm going to make a little room up here. And now I'm going to add a navigation view controller. So here's the nav controller. I drag it out here and we always get two windows, including the root view controller. I already have a view that I want, so this root view controller can go away. So I'm going to delete that, maybe. I have a little trouble selecting that one.
You have to click off of it and then click it.
All right, I think I got it now because I was able to move it. There we go. And this is now my navigation controller for my detail view. So I slid it in between there. Now I need to connect these things. First thing I'm going to do is grab the table view controller, or the cell, excuse me. I think I can zoom in here now. I'm going to grab the cells from up here and control drag them to this one, saying basically whenever they click on one of those, jump to the nav view controller. No, not today. Why not?
Look at the title of it?
The title or the prototype cells?
Title, I think.
Still not getting anything. I did this. I hate it when it doesn't work when I come back in here. Good. There we go. Okay, and we want this to be modal now. Right, because it was push. We want it to be modal. And let's immediately name that. So
That's a selection segue.
Selection segue, yeah, the top modal, not the accessories. And let's immediately name that. So this will be show details. Or view details or whatever you want it to be, but I'm going to go with show details. And then I'm also going to drag my little plus sign from up here into there. Again, a modal segue. And again, I'm going to name it And this time it's going to be add member. And finally, this is the one that threw me for a loop for a little while, that these are modal. We have to connect the navigation view controller to the view controller. And when you do that, use the root view controller. Because this is the real view is basically what that's saying. This one is a navigation controller, but this connected to that one is the root view controller, and you get this little, that symbol is the one you got to be watching out for. When we first drag them onto the form, you might have noticed that dragged them onto the form, it says root view controller, it has a root view controller connection already. So we wanted to maintain that. And I don't think that one needs a name, so we should be okay.
What did we name the other one besides short detail?
Add member. Okay, I didn't do it this way in my office, but let's do it as well. We need now a way to get back from here to there. And those are pretty easy. We're just going to do the same buttons that we had in our add view controller. So I'm going to come down here and find the button bar button item. And add 2 of those to your form. The one on the left is usually called the cancel button, so you change its identifier to cancel. The one on the right, change it to save. So we're not really doing anything new here except disconnecting some views and reconnecting them. But you got your save and cancel buttons? Yes? Almost. I still have a button on my view. I'm going to delete that. Don't think we need it. And now let's take the cancel button and the save button and drag them back the other direction. These go back to the master view controller. Right, so,
navigation controller.
pardon me? Not the navigation controller. No, because the navigation controller is kind of, it's all it is a navigation controller. So those have to go back to the master view controller. So take your cancel button and control drag it to the master view controller. And we want this to be our dismiss. And we still probably need this dismiss segue. So if you don't have a dismiss segue defined in your Unit 5 Part 1, and you probably don't, you can probably copy that. I open both projects and drag it from one project into the other. It should copy it, and then you can just steal that class, and that's what gives us this dismiss segue. And then I want to do the same thing with the save. Well, wait a minute. Before I do that, I'm going to name this one, otherwise it gets hard. I'm going to call this one dismiss and cancel. We did discover that you can find those segues over here and pretty much figure out which one's who by clicking on them, but probably wiser just to do it right away. Now I'm going to finally take my save button and control drag it over to the master, and again do a dismiss and try to figure out which one it is. There it is, dismiss and save. So now we've kind of got our stuff wired up again. But now what we need to do is communicate between them. And what I want to be able to do is use the plus sign. We have a plus sign over in the navigation view controller. At least there used to be one. Under master view controller. Isn't that the master view? Where's my plus sign?
That was in the jacks that we made. I think we'll have to add it.
But Jax is still there.
Well, it was in the,
I lost my navigation view controller for my.
Same here.
Where did my plus sign go? It's like
Well,
this
click on it.
navigation.
Click on-
Oh,
click
just
on
got to
it.
click on the nav controller. There it is. Okay. Thank you. I wonder why it does that. I had the same problem in my office this morning. I opened it up and all my save and cancel buttons were gone. And 10 minutes later, they came back. Don't know what happened. But so here's a plus sign. What I want is when I click the plus sign, I need to send a piece of information over to the detail view saying that we clicked add. So go ahead and leave these blank. But if I click on one of the cells, I once again want to send, not the details. I'm just going to use my theory right now is I'm just going to send the index. Because remember, now that we have our family class over here, which is our array of family members, our static array of family members, everybody has access to that array. So my theory is when you click over here, we send the row number to the detail view, and the detail view uses the row number, goes into the array, grabs the data, shows it on the form. Makes sense?
Another thought with that is for you, maybe use an index that can't be in there. Like
Then I have a null index.
but then you don't, that's why you don't use it right then. And that's just like it's.
But I'll be able to tell.
Yep.
All right. So first thing, here was my thought, and I'm going to tell you in advance this doesn't work. At least it didn't for me, but that's why I'm hoping that maybe one of you will see something that I missed that we can send. I'm going to go into my detail view controller code and prepare it to receive not a family member, but an index. So I'm going to take this and comment it out, command slash, and then I'm simply going to create a variable member index, which is an integer, and to handle what Nick was saying is if I click plus sign, there's not going to be an index.
Or just use -1.
I could use -1, and that's ultimately what we'll do. All right, or I can make it optional. So right now, it's optional. So I'm just going to send the member index. And then down here in the configure view, I don't get an entire family member anymore. So I need to, I think I'm going to copy all this to the clipboard and then comment it out. I need to tweak it, but I don't want to lose it completely. So I'm going to change this to index. Let the index, which is an integer, equal self.memberIndex. And this unwraps it, right? Because this is saying, go ahead and try to unwrap this. If it works, and save it. Else, this is where we get into Nick's business. If it doesn't work, then we must be adding, because there is no member index. That's my theory. Sounds logical, right? Looking at them for confirmation here. Sounds logical. All right, so now the first name text is going to be equal to family.members.get from the index. So this gets the family member and then gives me the first name. Now I can combine all that and do it over and over and over again, but instead of going through this get process 3 times, I think I'm going to define a new family member called member, and that's going to be equal to this. And then down here I just say member. And member and member.
Don't like it.
Who doesn't like that?
Use a bar.
Oh yeah, bar. We used
Or let, but it might, is it going to change? I don't know.
probably.
Oh, What's your problem? Family member. Oh, I've got the wrong syntax here. Let's just do this. That should work.
Let member equal family dot
Yep.
member.
There we go.
Sorry.
So I'm doing the implicit typecasting. I've been doing a little too much C# again. Implicit typecasting there. This is going to return a family member. So this is a family member, and then we pull out its pieces, parts, and display it.
How's that better than having the detailed after its name? We commented out.
The detail?
Yeah.
Basically the same thing. I just renamed it. The only thing that's different is I'm sending an index to this detail class instead of the entire member itself. Which index am I messing with? Because remember, when we start editing, our plan is to not edit the data that's in the array, but simply replace it. So all I need to know is what's the index of the one that I'm going to replace, or if I'm adding, I don't need an index, I simply add it. All this conceptually seems to be good, and I know I'm going to make it work, but I'm hoping I can make it work this way. Go ahead.
I was wondering if the var member equal family dot member that get index could be in the if statement instead of getting
Could be in which if statement?
the first one. So instead of if let index equals
No, because index is the part that may be optional, right? We have to unwrap index first.
Yeah.
So his thought of can I put it up here won't work because it's the index that I'm unwrapping here. And I can't, and I don't want to, guarantee that it will exist, because if I'm adding, it doesn't exist. Okay, so that's the detail side of the house. Now on the master view, we have to send this index. So I'm going to the master view controller. And whenever we get to the segue part here, now it's complaining, because there is no detail item. But now it's called member index. And we don't send it an object. All we really need to send is the row number. And this let command is basically gone. I don't know why that segue isn't indented more there, but this let command we don't need, because this let command was getting the family member out of the array for us. But now what we really want is just the index and send that. Makes sense.
You need index path dot row.
Yep.
Oh, you have that. Maybe I should look at what you typed.
So I'm going to run it. Let's pause while it's grinding. Okay, so it's running. Everything looks good. Cool. Let's take a look at a nits record. Oh, now that's different. That's different than I got in my office. So which means I might be out of date in my office. I thought I had the right version installed in my office, but this is different than I got in my office. In my office, I got an error. And so we're making progress already. Whatever that means, I don't know what progress I've made, but this is different. Because in my office, I got an error when I clicked, I got this basically index not found thing. Does the cancel button work? Yes. Can I click on Voc or Gall and get any information? No. So we're not getting the index over there, it doesn't look like. But I'm also not getting an error, which is what I was getting in my office. Here was my suspicion. I was getting an error because we came from here and we said go to the detail view controller and change the member index. Well, aren't we navigating to here? It's a navigation view controller. It's not a detail view controller. And so this really doesn't have an index. And so I'm not sure what's different about my code now than it was in my office. In my office, I was getting an error. And basically my analysis, I looked at it, then I went to the master view controller and I put a print line under here to make sure that, because that line, the segue line, is the one that crashed.
My initial thought was you didn't have the did set on your member index.
Commented it up.
I know, but if you comment that out, then it never runs configure view.
Only on the initial one. It's not from the click. Remember, it was still working before.
Yeah.
And I think it runs the initial view. The only time that one in the one he's talking about is this piece of code here.
Yeah.
That piece of code was the one we didn't understand that to me I think happens when the phone rings and it takes control of your app, and then when you come back, that would reconfigure the view.
Yeah, I
That's
I
my
left it in there and it didn't work.
That didn't help any. That one was not doing me any favors before. That's why we commented it out. So now my next question is in configure view here, I think what I'm going to do, I'm sorry, let me go back. I did verify that here, the NS or the index path.row is correct. Whatever I click on, that's the right, it's a number. That's what I want. Okay. That does seem to be working, but it's not making it to the detail view, and my suspicion is because the navigation view controller is in between.
Gotta put a breakpoint on the if let index equal. Put a breakpoint there.
Yeah.
It says index is beyond the scope of an int usually. I guess it's 64-bit int probably, but I would have expected.
Does it tell you what the member index is?
Yeah. Yeah, ridiculous number.
That makes sense, because then it's accessing part of the data that's there.
I mean, it's 4639903884842631168.
But why would member index not have that value unless it was not going through the process, right?
Let's see, do we need a did set?
Well, if you put that up there, the did set, if you click on it, you'll get there. But then you'll get there again, or you'll get to, if the breakpoint and configure view is more important that you're getting there, right? But it's some ridiculous number, which is basically probably null, which is why, is it skipping over that code then if you step over? Because I got to quit asking and just do it and put it in the recording. Okay, so there's my breakpoint, maybe. Okay, we got here, and the member index is, here's my member, here's the index. This case, index is 0, which should be legit, right? Mine says index is 0, so let's step over, and it jumps all the way up. Of course, this debugger still has its...
No, because I was gonna wonder if 0 is because 0 is not false, right? No, because if you click 1, it should work too. Try the other ones.
I'm getting a large index without the W.
Yeah, so we're both getting different indexes, but ridiculously large ones.
I'm thinking that's right.
I still haven't quite figured out this debugger.
No,
I'm going to put a print line in instead because I don't trust it, but we kind of saw that it didn't make it in here, right? So I think I'm going to put the print line here. And I'm only going to be clicking, so I'm going to say I guarantee that that index is going to be there. So I'm going to do a print line.
Where does that print show up anyway?
Index is, hang on a second, I'll answer your question. Index exclamation mark.
My segue identifier appears to be incorrect.
Oh, maybe that's why it's working today and it wasn't working in my office. It's a segue identifier.
The segue identifier in the code says show detail.
Yeah.
And when I debug that, it says show details.
So that we're not, okay, that's what the problem is. That's why it's working. I hate to say this, but that's why it's working. Okay, so I want to kill this if I can. Now all of a sudden I got what? Oh, I'm typing code. Let's park that for a minute. Okay, let's double check. I'm going to the file view here. I'm going to the storyboard and the table view segue. It's add member, that's not it. Show details. Okay, and then the if statement in my main storyboard says if the subway is show details. Okay, so we were missing that if statement and still segueing, and that's why we're getting nothing. So that's good, in a way. That part works. We send it nothing. It send, if we'd done a plus segue, it would do the same thing and show us an empty record, which is kind of what we want, right? But now that I have that put in there the right way, I got a feeling this is going to crash on me. Yep, that's what I saw before. That's better. Sorry. I hate it when it works and it's not supposed to. Okay, this is what I saw before. Obvious gibberish. We're into assembly language here. And notice the big error message I got. No help whatsoever. I am in dynamic cast class unconditional Swift. Who knows? I don't know what causes that. Again, my suspicion is that we're talking about the destination view controller, which is really just a root, is just a navigation controller. So one thought that I've had that I haven't had a chance to test, and I'm going to test it now, is can I tweak this a little bit and say the segue, can I get to its destination view controller? Is there a navigation controller thing here? Because I know it's a navigation controller.
I just put a breakpoint on the if segue identifier double equals show details,
Yeah.
and it appears as though it skipped over.
Yeah, but I'm telling you that debugger, it's skip over, it'll come back sometimes, and the debugger right now is not working as well, I think, as it should.
I'm getting a springboard quick unexpectedly there.
What I'm looking for here is some way to convert this. If you find something in the meantime, let me know.
Another thought that comes to mind is what if we make a static variable?
UI? Darn, okay, now I have to go back to it again. Thank you, that's probably what I was looking for. So let's see if we can change this to a UI navigation view controller, is that what you said?
No UI navigation controller.
Navigation controller. Okay, then it doesn't have a member index, but what if I then cast that whole thing? Can I get to the navigation controller's destination description? Destination. Nope. There's no destination view controller.
There's top view controller, visible view controller, view controller.
There's also just view control.
How about root view controller? No root.
Pushing and copying stack items. That's something you want.
I was looking at something. This,
Is it delegate?
Okay, we turn the recording off again because we're. Okay, we did get it to work, just proof, so I don't have to come back here. We did, there's a net cancel. The save and cancel right now are just dismissing, so that's not a problem. Does the plus still work? It does, and it's showing up empty, so that's good. All right, now, what did we do? We modified this segue command because my suspicion, I don't remember if it's in the recording or not, but my suspicion was we were sending the index to the nav controller. And the nav controller, we tried to cast it as a detail view controller, and the answer was no. It's not a detail view controller, I'm not doing it. So what we spent a fair amount of time doing is looking for a way to say, I want my nav controller's main form, root view, whatever it was, and we'll give Justin a shout out here in the recording. Justin found a link where we found basically this. We take the destination view controller and cast it as a navigation view controller. It is our navigation view. Then from there, we went to the top view controller, and this is the property we had trouble finding. And we cast that as a detail view controller because you and I know it's a detail view controller. That then gave us access to the member index, and we could change that number and go from there. Phew. Let's take a break. That's a good place to end the recording. When we come back, we'll take a little bit of time. It shouldn't take long, I hope. Shouldn't take long to now teach our detail view controller when the user hits cancel. Cancel.
Oh, yeah.
Don't have to do anything. When the user hits save, replace the current family member with the new family member. And if there is no member index, then add instead. So we'll do that when we come back.